This is a Grande Pacific production. What we want to talk about is a cab bus. For 99% of the people dealing in an NCE system, the conversation part of this about wall warts will not come into play. You've got to get to a pretty extensive use of your cab bus, and we'll define what it is here in just a minute before you get into having to put a wall wart in. So this is a very limited application in general speaking. It's going to apply if that cab bus starts getting out past the 30-40 foot range. It also is going to depend on how many pro cabs do you have plugged into it, and or AIOU01s, mini panels, or RPO2 radio antennas. These things all eat voltage up. But we're going to talk about just some of the basics and what you need to watch for. And let's assume we're going to go out with a big long cab bus and what you need to do to make it work. But let's cover some of the things that you need to start off with. And again, a little terminology, because I'm going to try to cover a little bit about a power cab. Because there's another question that keeps coming up. So let's define the two animals we're going to talk about today in respect to PCP and UPT again. This is a PCP panel. This is used exclusively with the power cab. If I did not have the yellow dot on it, and that was placed on there by me, that is the left-hand plug, which you have to have the power cab plugged into, and the power cab must be on an address of 2 for it to work. So you have to use the left plug and be on 2 before it'll work. That's a PCP panel. This is a UPT panel. Gee, other than that yellow dot, what's the difference? Can't tell looking at the front. It's the old story. Got to look at the back. There is no plug. There is substantial difference looking at the back. I'm not going to try to get at it, but you have 2 RJ12 jacks for continuing on the cab bus in the back, which is not available on the PCP panel. This is your plug for your 12-volt power supply to run that system. This is your track connection. This is your connection to continue on to a UPT panel. And that's the part that I will demonstrate later if you're going to continue the cab bus on a power cab system. But we're going to leave the power cab now, and we're going to just strictly talk about Power Pro system, 5 amp or bigger. How many depends on how many boosters you got. But the big command station, and how you would fool with a large cab bus. Now, let me stop here for a second, and we'll take you to the actual visibility. This is a 20 amp system. It's got a command station and with a 5 amp booster and 3 other 5 amp auxiliary boosters. I'm not going to get into the power supplies, how it's set up and all that. I covered that in another video, so let's just move forward to the command bus. Cab bus. I'm sorry, let's make this clear. This is the command bus, where it says control bus. That's the, you have 3 bus systems in an NCE: track bus, control bus, and this is your cab bus. So the cab bus wire comes out here and it goes to right here Now, this is a UPT panel that I'm using for a splitter. In this case, the main cab bus is located for the track right here. This is the one for the radio, and this is an auxiliary feed that goes over to a UPT panel over by my program track. So yes, you can use a UPT panel for a splitter. Now, the command from the bus line from the command station comes through here, and the main cab bus comes out here, and it runs to the first plug, which is right there. That's the first jack in the system. Now I'll get into explaining how you continue on to the next one in a minute, and I'll show you exactly what you have to do to make sure it's right. The point that I want to make here is there's the second one, there's the third one, there's the fourth one, fifth one, sixth one, seventh one, eighth one, ninth one. Now we're at about 90 something feet. We come around to the other side. 10th one, 11th, 12th, 13 at the end, 14, 15, 16, 17. There's 17 UPT panels on this railroad, and the total cab bus involving all the extensions and everything is in excess of 250 feet. Now, one of the other things that you have to consider is things like this. You have a mini panel here at the end and an AIOU 01. I can also tell you in this railroad there is another mini panel, and there are 5 more AIOU 01s. And up here in the ceiling there's an RB02 and a repeater. Okay, we're not going to get into the radio discussion today. So this is an extensive cab bus. It all works. It has been working for more than 4 years, and it functions 100%, both radio and plug-in. So I'm going to put the camera back on the tripod because we need to get into some specifics here. Okay, let's talk about the cable. Flat 6-wire cable. I've kind of bent the blue and the white one off to the side. We're talking about those 4 wires in the middle. That's all we're talking about. Red and black is your 12 volts. The other 2 are your cab bus. The cab bus is continuous. It's not broken. You may hear, we're going to talk about what the wall wart does here in a minute, but that cab bus never gets broken. It's continuous. And that is the part that you're sending the signals back to the command station on, is 2 wires. The only place the white and the blue wire currently get used in an NCE system is on a power cab. When you plug into that PCP panel, you have to use a 6-wire cable, because that white and blue wire carry the voltage that makes the whole thing work. So only place in the whole system that white and blue wire is used, but that doesn't preclude you. So you can pick up on flat wire today from radios, from electronic supply houses. I'll only say all electronics because that's who I bought from, but Jamco, I'm sure some of the other ones have it. Actually, I happened to be going through Lowe's back a couple of 4 years ago when they discontinued carrying all this stuff, and I just happened to ask when they were reorganizing the department what they were doing. They said, oh, they were discontinuing. I said, what are you going to do with the old stuff? And they said, well, it's all 50% off. So I made it to 2 loads that day and bought 10 rolls of it, and it's come in handy over the years, helping a lot of people and getting my own layout done. So that is flat 6-wire cable, and the important thing about it is, if you can see it, there's a ridge on the back that helps you keep what is known as straight. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Talking about straight, this is the instructions for the UPT panel, UTP, okay? And in here it shows you the wiring of what straight is. Okay, notice thumb up, thumb down. Okay, that's the little tit on the end of the connector. That's the thumb. So if you remember that, you'll keep your pin straight and you won't have a problem. Now, one other part here shows you how to hook up each UPT panel, and that's the part we want to cover right now. On the back of the UPT, it says right there, to command station. So whenever you plug a wire into this hole, this is the one that's got to be running to the command station. This goes to the next panel. It doesn't make any difference if they're not in the, if it comes in like this or if it comes in like this. It doesn't make any difference which way it comes from. This just needs to be the one going back to the command station. Okay, and it says it right there on the board. Very important. So very simply, we'll show you the demonstration here. Okay, it's not a 5-amp system as you know it. It's not a CSO2. It goes a long, long way back. We won't even mention the name, but this is one of the originals. But it serves the purpose. It's got the command bus plugs on it. So you have to plug in the wire into the command bus. The next thing is you take your cable and you plug it into the one right here that says from the command station, and you plug it in here. Okay, so this one would go to your next UTP panel. Then you would neatly mount this in your fascia board. However you get around doing that, suggest you make up a template that fits the size here for the hole you need, and then you can carefully go mark it and then drill it out and cut it out with a saber saw. Now, so as you saw earlier in the video, I have 17 of these things. If I plugged in 17 controllers and all these, that would require an additional amount of voltage. Could not run 17 controllers on, couldn't run this whole cab bus on the voltage that comes from the command station on those 2 red and black wires. That's the fact that we keep talking about, that anything you got to do. So hold on and we'll get to that part. So now we get to what's known as a wall wart. Sorry, don't have the box on this anymore, but I'll hold it here and you can hit the pause button and make sure this is what you get. Okay, output is 12 volts DC, 500 milliamps. Okay, that's what you're looking for. And it has this plug on the end, male plug, and if you read the instructions it says that tip is positive. So and that's covered in the instructions. It talks about wall warts in the instructions, and it gets into all the details also on how to hook up an LED on the front of there if you so desire that would say it was on. But this is the device. So, and I'll go show you how mine's installed in a minute, but you plug the wall wart into the wall, and to add voltage to the continuing segment of the cab bus, you plug it into the back right here, right there. Now, you can't see this real well, but when I plug that in, there's a metal plate right there. It pushes down and it breaks the connection going back to the command station. You cannot backfeed 12 volts into the command station on this. You will have a problem. No, expensive problems. So that's why in several of the posts, comments by several people, you need to use what's designed to be used. Now, you can get terminal connectors here for Cat5 cable. They do make UTP panels that you can wire up with a Cat5 system. And then you do have to add your voltage in as a separate connection. Be sure about what you're doing if you go that route, because you can't backfeed voltage into the command station. But this is the wall wart connection. The only thing I have, and of course, again, as many of you heard me talk about this railroad, this plugs into the wall. I have a separate connection system throughout the things, a separate circuit for all the railroad. This goes in my brown plug, so when I walk out the room, turn off the switch, all this stuff gets turned off. Don't leave wall warts running. So this is, something I would suggest you do, is find a way to put this in a circuit that you turn off when you turn off the railroad. Again, I'm going to emphasize that probably for 99% of you, you don't need this. If your cab bus is 3, 4, 5 UTP panels, and you're plugging in 3 or 4 cabs max, you're probably fine. And I have a feeling from my long-standing history doing this, that's 99% of you. To have 17 UPT panels is getting out there in the extreme. Now, if you're going on to the next UPT panel, you use this plug and you go and you plug it in to the next one that says to the command station. That's where you're daisy chaining them and you're keeping them all on the same plug so that all the things flow on the same board. And basically it takes it up through here and then back out. It keeps it all in a straight line. Both those plugs, let's turn this over. Got to get the name right, Larry. Okay. Both those plugs on the front of a UTP panel provide the same service. There is nothing unique about either plug as compared to the PCP panel, which is unique. Okay, so that finishes that part. This will be the end of part 1 of a 2-part video on the NCE cab bus and using wall warts and using a UPT panel with a power cab. Part 2 is on my channel.